going to do some reading. This is part 3 of the reading. We're going to do some reading.
Triss could not help Geralt, yet she did direct him to Karim Tilly, an Oniromancer and an expert at finding the lost and the missing. Guided by Karim Tilly, the Witcher had a dream. In it, Ciri and I, the bard Dandelion, were reunited. Geralt now knew that to find Ciri, he would first need to find his dear old friend.
Just wait, I'm doing a lot of things here. go. Sorry, it took that long, but
Issued by the Temple Guard of the City of Novigrad. Fellow followers of the Flame, in recent days several officers of the Temple Guard have been ravaged to death in a most best. Issued by the Temple Guard of the City of Novigrad. Fellow followers of the Flame, in recent days several officers of the Temple Guard have been ravaged to death in a most bestial manner. An investigation has been launched to look into the matter, so the perpetrator shall soon feel the iron grip of justice closing around his throat. Anyone able to help the guardsmen track down and punish this murderer or murderers, as the case may be, is asked to report to the nearest guard post at once. A reward is foreseen. It is likewise hereby announced that any man aiding or abetting these bandits or withholding evidence regarding these crimes shall be punished by torture, imprisonment, or even death. Sergeant Gilbert Witch. Contract. Haunted House Seek a Witcher. Sergeant Gilbert Witch. Contract. Haunted House Seek a Witcher of unsullied reputation. Documentation regarding prior achievements and written references preferred. Who will undertake the task of combing the residents on the outskirts of the city recently acquired by the undersigned, Count Kurt Dysart, in order to find and drive off or kill the creature which is haunting it. A sizable reward is guaranteed. Sincerely, Kurt Dysart, Count of Anchor by writ of King Foltest, temporarily in residence at the Kingfisher. Contract in, on behalf of the Merchants Guild, thereby announce the following. A particularly bold beast in, to our thinking, has taken to thieving the market near the city gates. Though it has not yet harmed any humans, this monster has caused a great deal of irrecoverable financial loss. Whoever tracks down and kills this imp shall receive a hefty reward. 1. Free of all taxes, in accordance with our Honorable City Councilman's Decree numbered 1271 C710. Do not tarry in providing us assistance, good people, for retail trade is the backbone of a healthy economy, meaning the financial well-being of the city's merchants lies in all of your best interests. Sylvester Amello, Merchant. Contract. Monster in the bids. By order of the City Council number 1408-02-185, a reward has been set aside for the killing of the monster which torments and murders residents of the bids after dark. The only acceptable proof of having performed this deed shall be a trophy taken from the monster's body. Yes, this means your mother's or cousin's or aunt's eyewitness testimony will not suffice, nor will the sworn word of any other person, regardless of his or her claimed relationship to you, the hierarch or anyone else, and also without caring one whit for his or her alleged trustworthiness, which supposedly can be attested to by anyone at your favorite drinking hall. For more information and or to collect the reward, see the District Superintendent for the bids. Lund by writ of the City Council Superintendent of the Bight.
gave our whole inheritance to the priests.
Buy tomorrow what you can buy today. The thinking customer will see right away the best deals.
They've gone too far.
Top-notch swords.
Show me what you have in stock. So long.
Witcher. What's the rush?
Watch where you step.
Mordecai, everywhere you...
Welcome. Welcome.
What have you got there? So long.
Buy tomorrow what you can buy today.
I know I've already read that. It's called the horse fish, right? Boy, that's so nice.
The horse whistler, breaking in a horse. Psyche is a simple matter of it. The horse whistler, breaking in a horse's psyche is a simple matter of instilling your will as the rider into your mount, acquiring its trust and training its obedience. Horses are intelligent, noble beasts, so they should be treated with tenderness and a decisive and firm energy. Mayer, the unquestioned authority in this area, emphasizes that when training one's mount, a rider must eternally on the lookout for errors in the training itself. Every time the taming process ends in failure, the rider must look for the blocking error first of all in his own actions, secondly in the horse's anatomy, and only in a last resort by concluding the horse has a naturally difficult temperament. Adhering to this principle protects one from undue punishments, which destroy the possibility of reaching an understanding between rider and mount and make it impossible to gain the animal's trust. How to avoid colossal vessels. On the rolling deep, when there's nothing to rest your eyes upon save the horizon, you get lulled into a false sense of security which can easily spell your doom. For no man knows the day or the hour, nor does any sailor know when a small dot at the edge of his vision will turn into an Nilfgaardian dromond racing towards him, its sails puffed full and its prow ready to cleave his hull like an axe. Prevention is the first and best way to avoid such collisions. You must keep your eyes pried wide open, even when the waters are smooth as a newborn's hinterquarters and there's not a speck of land nor a hint of foreign flag to be seen. When vision fails in dark or murk, one must keep an ear cocked, especially in the waters near Skellige, for the oarsmen of the archipelago add muster to their rowing with song, and their thunderous voices carry far, so they can often be heard before they are seen, and it's a powerful boon that they thus reveal themselves, for a collision with the Skellige longship damns one doubly, for the vessel itself is armored prow to stem, while inside are ferocious, battle-hardened warriors. The collected verse of Gonzalo de Versia. Love. To love is to build a house of cards, or play a game of chess, but one wrong word or ill thought move and you must start it all afresh. Tide. Whenever I watch the tide recede, cold coils of fear grip round my heart. Will the sea sneak back, calm and sure, in the dark of night, as they have before, or will they stay on distant shores leaving crushed shells and washed up dreams as memory of serfs of yore? Fauna of the Northern Realms Volume 1. What a wolf is, every man knows. Who hasn't heard them howling nights or seen their tracks in the snow come morning? Who hasn't felt a cold chill run down his spine when he catches sight of a pack of 5 of them hunting in the woods? These beautiful animals are treated by men as anemics, and not W reason, for they attack our flocks and will even kill our horses during times of deep frost. Yet they are noble beasts, endowed with great intelligence and displaying a strength and independence that no man can help but admire. A few remarks on basilisks and cockatrices. Wyver you got such a few remarks, yet they admire. Admire. A few remarks on basilisks and cockatrices. Wyver you got such big eyes. Grandmam asked the little girl with worry shriek. Shrieky replied the basilisk. Grandmam, why do you say shriek shriek? Question mark? Asked the little girl with surprise. The basilisk didn't reply, but instead clamped its toothy, venomous maw over the curious little girl and swallowed her up. Luckily, a witcher by the name of Eskel was wandering these lands in search of a Sudal. The Witcher was experienced and so knew basilisks only turn people to stone in fairy tales. He also knew it is best to avoid their venom. Eskel noticed the monster had recently eaten, and before anyone could say, "Ready, steady, Gaul," he threw himself at the beast and cut it open with his silver sword. The basilisk's stomach opened up and the Witcher saw the half-digested foolish little girl inside. A sword for witches. Who are the hunters, you ask? Folk like you and yours, I reply, the decent kind. Inside, a sword for witches. Who are the hunters, you ask? Folk like you and yours, I reply, the decent kind, haters of lies, doers of good, the kind who live according to the gods' laws, and nature's laws, too. Those disgusted by the machinations of witches, magikers and non-humans. All that separates us from common folk is that we've the courage to take up arms, to defend our lands from evil, to slice out the gangrene that eats us from within. We haven't a leader, we haven't forts or land, though God's fearing Radovid supports us with his gold at times. We've not sworn him nor any other ruler any oath. We serve only the eternal fire and we listen only to our own conscience. Who can join us? Any who is right of soul and sound of body. You can find us in every larger city in the north. We will give you board, lodging and a weapon. We will explain how to spot the telltale signs of evil, birthmarks in strange and arcane shapes, smooth skin on a matron aged more than 30 springs, and black cats kept in the yard, to name but a few. We will show you how to defend yourself from witchcraft, how to tame and snuff out magic elements with dimeridium. We will instruct you how to squeeze the sinner's darkest secrets out of them with a hot iron, and how to grant them cleansing death with the help of sacred fire. The one fire. The wonders of Sarikania. During my many travels I have seen countless extraordinary places. The primeval wilds of Brokilon, with trees so high their tips disappear in the clouds. Dwarven chambers carved into the guts of the Mahakam Mountains, with walls plated in pure gold. The ice palace of Pont Vanus adorned with stained frost windows. Yet none of these made such an impression on me as did the rightly famed Sarikanla. Yet while I was traversing the Flary Mountains, I feared disappointment awaited me on the other side. I had heard many a fantastic tale about Sarikania, about its trackless sands, burnt white by the sun, its golden-scaled dragons, weaving their nests amidst the dunes, its hunch-backed horses able to survive weeks without even a swallow of water, yet none seemed to me at all plausible. I was sure all these sensations were but the figments of some bard's overactive imagination. I know this will be as hard for you to believe, dear reader, as it once was for me, but all of the unbelievable tales are true. Not only that, during my many months of travel I came across wonders far surpassing those any prior travelogues mentioned. I saw temples dedicated to the worship of dragons. I heard their voice, almost human, but reverberating with 8,000 echoes. I met warrior maids clad in leopard skins, tattooed from head to foot and giving no ground to witchers in mastery of the blade. I saw mages who channeled power from fire. I saw seemingly harmless flies whose solitary bite would make a man fall into a deep slumber, never to awake save to die. In short, Sarikania is a land where the fantastic is normal, and the impossible occurs daily.
I'm really doing this. Very Japanese. I'm doing a lot of these. Wait. Wait. Not right. Almost done, guys. Almost done.
Lands of the North. Velen. The land of Velen, located in western Temeria with its capital in Gorsvelen, is one of the poorest provinces in the kingdom. Its territory encompasses the Isle of Theneb, home to the famous Magic Academy which, along with Gorsvelen, constitutes the commercial and developmental mainspring of the entire province. Velen is a stop on the Novigrad trade route running through Sidoris, Virgin, Brugge, Sintra and other such southerly realms. Veleners subside primarily on agriculture, crafting and animal husbandry. The province is practically deprived of all natural resources. It contains a great deal of forests, wetlands and cultivated woods, though the greatest part of it is covered in swamps and bogs. Diary of a Fire Swallower. Was it Loch Moon? That's right, the summit of summits itself. We'd gone there, my troop mates and I, knowing there'd be a meeting of the mighty in the ruins. You see, whenever big shots gather to chew some particularly gristly fat, there's going to be had for performing men like us. Tired jaws need to relax with some laughing and indulging in other sorts of simple delights. I learned this as a lad from my old man, who'd drag me around to juggle outside courts and conventions all over the continent. And so now, applying my own trade as a fire swallower, I told the lads up soon as I caught word of what was brewing in Loch Moon, and we tuned our wagons that away at once. I'm not much one for politics, but I couldn't help but listen to some of it this time. You see, we Temerians had just lost our king, and our future was to be decided at that very summit, with John Natalis representing our side. The matter. Radovid was there, too, a young pup then, though emanating strength like a gray-haired alpha wolf. It seemed this wolf was licking his chops over Temeria like it was a ripe bit of carrion. The rest was dull. A lot of talk about the uprising in Edom and its leader, Saskia, who they called the Virgin, though I never got the chance to check personally whether that was accurate. The Nilfgaardians had a delegate, some Shillard fellow, and mages were there, talking about restoring the conclave and supreme council of sorcerers. I didn't listen to much of that. My eyes were glued to the unusually large number of armed troops present at these peaceful talks. Steel-plated grunts clenched pointy weapons and paced the ruins' courtyards everywhere you looked. Radovid had even brought the knightly order of the Flaming Rose, those arrogant pricks ready to bash anyone who does think the same as them. Though the coin was coming in amply, we didn't wait around to see how things would develop. Just loaded our stuff onto our wagon and left at a trot. As we mounted the pass, we looked back to see pillars of smoke, black as pitch, rising above Loch Moon. What shall become of Temeria? Temeria, a land where milk and honey once flowed. In what did she wrong the gods that they should treat her so cruelly? The Pearl of the North to some, she proved a galloping range for Nilfgaardian cavalry to others. As a country, it had survived 2 previous wars against the Empire. It was here that the war's bloodiest battles were fought. It was in Temeria where their most bestial deeds were wrought. It was Temerian civilians who bore the full brunt of these war's horrors, and bear them we did, bravely and steadfastly, until the demise of our great protector, King Foltest. Then Providence turned its fickle face from Temeria, murdered most treacherously. Foltest failed to leave Temeria a worthy successor, and so all manner of curse soon fell upon her, tearing her apart like so much carrion. She had no more allies. Then, none remembered that we had once been the armor protecting the north from the designs of the mad dancer, he who had the gravestones of his foes pounded into a ballroom floor. A free and independent Temeria is no more. A dark-faced sun looms over her every rampart, yet we Temerians live on, and always will, as long as folk believe. The usurper who took our beloved capital, Vizima, to treat as his property will forever peer over his shoulder in fear, for in the shadows lurks not one dagger but the power of a nation of daggers, waiting to deal justice as blow. The Woven Storm. Ballads and hymns. These scars long have yearned for your tender caress to bind our fortunes. Damn what the stars own, rend my heart open. Then your love profess a winding, weaving fate to which we both atone. Chorus, you flee my dream, come the morning your sand. Berries tarred, lilac sweet to dream of, raven locks and twisted, stormy of violet eyes, glistening as you weave. To the wolf I will follow into the storm to find your heart, its passion displaced by ire ever growing, hardening into stone amidst the cold to hold you in a heated embrace. Chorus, you flee my dream, come the morning your sand. Berries tarred, lilac sweet to dream of, raven locks and twisted, stormy of violet eyes, glistening as you weave. I know not if fate would have us live as one, or if by love's blind chance we've been bound. The wish I whispered when it all began, did it forge a love you might never have found? Chorus, you flee my dream, come the morning your sand. Berries tarred, lilac sweet to dream of, raven locks and twisted, stormy of violet eyes, glistening as you weave. Do it yourself. How many times have you cursed a tailor for sewing a shirt more crooked than that infamous home in Novigrad? How many times have you argued with a smith who proved unable to forge a simple horseshoe in Amman? How many times will you steal food from your children's mouths because some armorer demands a Kaveri fortune for a hoe? Helmet. Enough. Basta, I say, and so should you. Empowered by the tome you hold in your hands and a few simple tools, you shall be able to perform basic repairs all by yourself, and perhaps even create something from scratch. So show those extortioners from the crafting guilds who shall make the fool of whom. Roll up your sleeves and get to work.
That was an hour just even doing this. Guys. So an hour.
First, I delivered. Welcome, welcome.
What have you got there?
The Horse Whistler.
So long.
And keep that as a count of the Vivaldi's bag.
At the bottom.
He's a foul practice. Stop at once. Dancing on a scaffold. They've gone too far.
The thinking...
Well, well, look who's here. The White Wolf himself in my humble establishment. How can I be of service?
How's business?
Really? That's the best you got? That's like asking a fisherman if they're biting, or an old gran about her health. Business is booming. There's profit to be made from war, provided you've the know-how. Before Nilfgaard had even crossed the Pontar, I'd contracted for insured deliveries of wood and iron from Kovir, reaped a 7-fold return on my investment.
Nice.
So you might think. But then there's the non-human poll tax, the church's tithe, war taxes, and my overhead. Subtract all that and you're left with a pittance. A dozen or so chests and no more.
Got some coin I'd like to convert into crowns.
You've come to the right place. A better rate you'll not find anywhere in the city. Sleep, sleep, sleep.
The thinking customer will see right. Let's deals this side of the Pontar.
Trouble?
Come on.
What's the rush?
Bad license.
Oh.
Not any. Under the counter.
What can I do? Look!
Sleep, sleep, sleep.
Oi!
Move it!
I'd have sailed back to Port Vance long before those Skellige pirates.
Oh!
Our townhouse. In Vizier's red water.
Damn it, lost the way again.
Do you not
I buy tomorrow what you can buy today.
why it cost me?
Do you know Mr. Meng?
No bread, no coin, all is shite.
Ah, you're back. Let's see these books of yours.
Oh, there's a lot more. Right? This means a lot.
Farewell.
Finally, guys, sorry about that long wait.
Portrayal of A portrayal of the elder races. What is a non-human? The answer is simple. As the very name suggests, is something which resembles an, yet nevertheless is not a human, though it walks on two legs, speaks a tongue similar to our own and dresses in similar attire. It all the same has more in common with base beast than noble man. Dwarves are like moles. They feel best underground and avoid direct sunlight. They like to live in filth, forever smudging themselves in mud and slime. They love everything that can be found within the earth, rocks, metal, minerals of all shape and color. It is also said that, like their kindred moles, they feed most readily on worms, roaches and other nightcrawlers. Halflings, for their part, are more reminiscent of gophers, fat, lazy and loud in that typical rodent way. Their minds are filled only with thoughts, food and drink, which they steal from other, nobler beasts and greedily squirrel away in their hovels. They are marked by a cruel craftiness. You could be dying of hunger and they would not share a meal with you. You could be howling from poverty, and they could be swimming in gold, and yet they would still fleece you to the last crown. You could do nothing but good to them, and they would still stab a knife in your back. Elves, in turn, seem related to the birds of prey that dwell in far off Zerrikania. They care most for colored feathers. They would most readily spend all day staring at their reflections in the water and singing their own good to them, and they would still stab a knife in your back. Elves, in turn, seem related to the birds of prey that dwell in far off Zerrikania. They care most for colored feathers. They would most readily spend all day staring at their reflections in the water and singing their own praises. They are so awash in self-love that they no longer feel any desire towards members of the opposite sex of their own species. Their appearance, unquestionably pleasant to the eye, is highly misleading, for they are extraordinarily cruel, and any who judge them by looks alone they first dupe and then kill in cold blood. The best proof of this, the so-called Skaladiel, bandits that claim to fight for freedom, but in truth only long to kill humans. All these vile so-called elder races are, to our great fortune, slowly dying out. Joy fills the heart of every right-thinking man at the thought that his great-grandchildren will never know them, that in their day dwarfs, halflings and elves will be mere fairy tale characters used to scare young impressionable children. She who knows. Folk K they were for and first. The mother she, who, known, the law the wood, came here from a faraway land, and since she suffered terribly from loneliness, she made 3 daughters out of dirt and water. A long, long time ago the mother was sole ruler of all of Velen. Her daughters brought her the people's requests and served as her voice. Every spring, sacrifices of grain, animals and men were made to the Lady of the Wood on her special night. Yet as the years passed, the Lady of the Wood slipped deeper and deeper into madness. Her madness eventually spread over the land. Men took to abandoning their homes and setting out into the bog, where they became food for beasts. Before long, Velen was drowning in blood. The daughters saw their land nearing destruction and took it upon themselves to save it. When spring came once more, and with it the night of sacrifices, they killed their mother and buried her in the bog. Her blood watered the oak at Ard Serban, and from then on the tree grew, wholesome and hearty fruit for the people. As for the lady's immortal soul, it refused to leave its beloved land, and so the sisters imprisoned too. To this day it lies trapped, beneath the whispering hillock, where it thrashes about in powerless rage. His Imperial Majesty Emhyr Varemers. Emhyr Varemers rules to expand. He has trained his strategic brilliance on a singular vision, to conquer the world, though he rightly calls this not conquest, but salvation. Yes, the Emperor of Nilfgaard sets the world alight with the torch of civilization, trampling the still, warm corpses of his father's usurpers. The Emperor seized the throne and began to assimilate the northern realms, one after the other. Terror engulfed the north. Only the Battle of Brenna slowed the imperial army's march toward victory. A temporary peace then took hold, though none believed this mirage would last. Emhyr's aim, to make the entire north a vassal of Nilfgaard, remained unchanged. Emhyr used Peak as a cover to intensify his political efforts. Now all can see their results. Chaos and disorder devour the Nording states. Ridden with internal bickering and backstabbing, they near collapse. Only a strong ruler can grapple this dysfunction into function. Only a wise ruler can give vision to their blindness. Only Emhyr Varemers can save the north. So our Armagh have again crossed the Yaruga, for the third and final time. Pearls of the North. Novigrad. No one can claim to have traveled the northern realms who has not been to Novigrad. If I were forced to list what during my many meanderings has made the greatest impression on me, it would be precisely this great, and yet at the same time free, city, a metropolis worthy of the empire. Its only flaw is that the civilization Nilfgaard carries within her has not yet enlightened it. That is why hordes of reactionary cultists of the Eternal Fire dwell in the midst of its excellent buildings and superb commercial infrastructure. One feels as though superstition is how the local hierarch and his temple guard cement their power over the city dwellers, and many they are to control, for the city counts no less than 30,000 of inhabitants. I was a mere Nor, while strolling through the fabulous port, surrounded by marvels of architecture. It is hard to imagine that centuries ag minor elven town stood, when the city fell into its problems grew exponentially, for as well north can do a great many things, but peaceful not one of them. And so Novigrad first belonged to Redania, under Temerian rule, until finally, after endless compromises bargains, it at last became a free city, but is the city truly free? I dare to doubt. 12. Redanian entrance Madcus Rock felt too strongly on every street corner, and the fact that the city is located within Radovid's territory speaks for itself. He makings of the Kapla, what more can be said? I think Novigrad has of the world, and perhaps that is what it will one day become. First, however, someone needs to bring order to within her wells. Sup the Nuria, Cyrilla Flona Ellen Rhiannon, born in 1251, heiress to the throne of Sintra, Princess of Brugge and Cyrilla Flona Ellen Rhiannon, born in 1250, the Nuria, Cyrilla Flona Ellen Rhiannon, born in 1251, heiress to the throne of Wells, Sup the Nuria, Wells, Sup the Nuria, C. Emhyr Varemres, granddaughter of Wells. Sup the Nuria, Cyrilla Flona Ellen Rhiannon, born in 1251, heiress to the throne of Sintra, Princess of Brugge and Duchess of Soden, heiress to Inisard Skullig and Innocent Skullig and Suzerain of Adder and Abyara, daughter of Pavetta, see Pavetta Fiona Ellen, and the Urchin of Urchinwald, see Embir Varemries, granddaughter of the famous Lioness of Sintra, Queen Calland, see Calland Fiona Rhiannon. A shipwreck occurred during a journey from Sintra to Skullige which took the lives of the Urchin and Pavetta. Cyrilla's further upbringing was then entrusted to her grandmother. In 1260, afraid of the looming Nilfgaardian threat, Queen Calland sent Cyrilla to the court of King Envil, see Ervil of Ferden, where the heiress of Sintra was to marry the heir to the throne of Ferden, Prince Kistrin, see Kistrin of Ferden. Though allying with Ferden and gaining the aid of that realm's army was at the time Calland's top priority, no marriage ever occurred, and Cyrilla returned to her grandmother's court. In 1262, during the so-called Sintra massacre, Cyrilla went missing. The slaughter of Sintra. Missing. The slaughter of Sintra. The cavalcade of riders pounded across the blood-soaked courtyard. They looked at no one and asked no questions. They knew exactly where they were going and why. To kill the old queen and capture the Sintran princess. As to what would become of her after that no one would say. Calland and a group of her most loyal subjects had barricaded themselves inside the castle. They were protected by stone walls and a gate sealed by a spell. But they all realized neither would last long against a concentrated assault by the Nilfgaardian army and the mages supporting. After 4 days, enemy soldiers forced their way inside. Adalbert's best. Brother Adalbert's bestiary. Each beast herein described in two manners ye may hunt. Either seek yo tracks, follow and strike the foulness wherever in its wild ye find it, or lure it to a chosen place and engage it there in advantageous battle. The latter poses less risk, for the hunter exposes no chance for an unexpected fight. Note, however, that to lure a beast into a trap, first its tastes and bet ye must know. As for forked tails, bald them thusly: pound a stake in the sock, bind a goat to it, then hide ye in nerdo shrubbery post haste. The beast, lured by the caprine odor, will without fall soon come. If it is a griffin yo seek to slay, take ye buckthorn from deep water. The mighty stench of this herb is to griffins like fresh, roasted meat of the primest sort, and so come they will forthwith, though far away they might be, turning to drowners and water hags. It is known to all and sundry that fish and rotting mollusks are their loves, and as for trolls, common hooch is their weakness. The Chronicles of Redania. Despite what one might conclude from his moniker, not one drop of divine blood flowed in King Bridank's veins. They called him the Elf because of his exceptional beauty, and for the great admiration he felt for the Ainseld. This fascination, seemingly harmless, would have horrible long-term consequences. King Bridank, spitting in the face of all laws and customs, chose as his wife a half-elf, and one of low status at that known as Beatrix of Covere. The fruit of this regrettable and short-lived mésalliance was Faka, who later fomented bloody revolt against her own father. Though this uprising was ultimately extinguished and Faka herself burned at the stake, the young state was thereafter thrown into chaos for years to come. Covere and Pavus. Covere and Pavus are without a doubt the richest realms in the north. Few today remember that this was not always the case, yet their poverty was once literally on everyone's lips, in the form of now antiquated common sayings. As recently as in the days of Heribert the Quarrelsome, one spoke of a particularly impoverished person as being poorer than a mouse from Pavus, called bone broth Covere delight, and referred to beggars as praxotes, after the bay along the shores of which these kingdoms be. Similarly, few remember that a mere handful of generations ago Covere and Pavus were still a part of Redania. King Radovid I, known as Radovid the Great, handed dominion over them to his hated brother, Troidan, with one stipulation that he never leave his newly acquired domain and not interfere in matters of state, handing over this rocky scrap of far northern ground, where, the saying went, the year had two seasons, August and winter, was naturally meant as a cruel joke, a slap in the face for the over-ambitious Troidan. Yet time soon proved that Radovid the Great had made a grave error. Before long it was discovered that Covere's bare rocks hid priceless treasure in the form of enormous deposits of precious metals and rock salt. This discovery in turn led to tremendous growth in productive industry. Mills, forges and workshops sprouted up like mushrooms after a hearty rain. Radovid decided to correct his famous forebear's mistake and take back the northern frontiers of his kingdom. He was convinced the combined armies of Redania and its then ally Kaedwen would quickly bring this ever more audacious vassal in line. History took a different turn, however, and Covere won a resounding, crushing victory. Radovid I was forced to sign the First Treaty of Lan Exeter, granting Covere independence while binding it to eternal neutrality, a promise Troidan's successors have kept with great diligence. Until recently Covere was ruled by Esterad Tissin, a king as wise as he was greedy. Yet his untimely demise did not stop his lands from continuing to develop and blossom. Covere metallurgists proudly compete with the best Mahakam can offer, and many believe the University of Lan Exeter long ago surpassed the famous Oxenford Academy as the leading seat of higher learning in the north. And so it has come to pass that, over the course of a few generations, the inhabitants of Covere and Pavus have turned from paupers into princes, from beggars into bankers. Wondrous world of insectoids. One is hard pressed to think of a creature more hard working and organized than the Endriga. Ants, bees and termites are no match for them in this regard. Endrigas best even humans when it comes to foresightedness and industry. In fact, the human race could benefit a great deal from following the example, resigning from the primitive and obsolete social structure cf. Feudalism and adopting instead a form of Arachna, in Arachna communism. Every individual has a specific labor for the common good. The roles are as follows: soldier and queen. Each comrade contributes to tea according to his special abilities, and takes from wealth according to his special needs. Golem, or man's most faithful servant. Despite what you might have heard, the first golem was created not by a powerful mage or an elven sage, but by a simple dwarf from Maribor named Bonaventura Sesto, a brickmaker. The fateful act of creation took place over a century ago, when the persecution of non-humans was in full swing in Maribor. Elves and dwarfs had been accused of bringing an epidemic to the city, though it was later discovered the outbreak had been caused by a man named Mathia Barkeep's dog's body at the Golden Goose Inn. This Mathia was charged with both serving meals and cleaning the latrines, and would only wash his hands once a month, and then not very thoroughly. The rest, as they say, is history. The persecution of non-humans was limited at first to robbing their shops, arson and the occasional beating, but the violence soon escalated into a bloody pogrom. As the city guard looked on without lifting a finger, humans murdered elves and dwarfs during 3 days and 3 nights of slaughter, killing over 300 individuals, including the aforementioned Bonaventura Sesto's entire family. Driven mad with grief and thirsting for vengeance, Bonaventura molded a 10-foot tall humanoid out of clay, and then carved the names of the slain non-humans onto it, along with a smattering of dwarven curses. Once finished, he slit his own throat, and when his blood splattered his gigantic statue, it came alive and started walking towards the city. Bonaventura had his sweet revenge on his persecutors. His creation killed almost 500 humans, including the mayor and the entire city council, before the soldiers from the city garrison could take it out using their ballista. The conclave's later investigation found that Bonaventura had possessed hidden magic talent, though he had never had any training. The torrent of powerful emotions running through him at the time of his death flushed out his latent powers and created from them a new spell. After numerous alterations and improvements, one can now cast this spell without sacrificing one's life, and golems guard laboratories, libraries and palaces across the continent. The Wild Hunt. A frail ribbon flickers across the sky, the rider's spectral silhouettes barely discernible within it. Then the cavalcade contorts closer and closer, revealing more and more of their ghastly form. Now the buffalo homs stop, their helms penetrate one's view. Now the crest betwixt them, and now the skull, like face exposed beneath their visors. The riders sit astride skeletal mounts, bits of barding stuck to their sides like boils. A furious gale howls through the willows. Their blades now glisten like unfailing stars in the black sky. The wind howls louder and louder. No, that is no wind. That is Gull Song. Suddenly the nightmarish cavalcade twists once more, the hooves of its ghostly mounts churning the light of will of the wisps hanging above the bog. At the head of the cavalcade rides the king of the hunt. A rust-eaten bassinet sways above a skull, like mask. Gaping eye sockets burn with a pale blue fire. Around him whirls a tattered cloak. A necklace rattles stop his rust-covered breastplate. Holes empty as the abyss stare out from it. Once they were filled with precious stones, but these fell out during his race across the skies and became stars. The king of the hunt laughs, his teeth, rotten as the grave, snapping above the rusted collar of his breastplate. The blue flames in the eye sockets of his skeletal mask roar. The world underground. We hunkered. The world underground. We hunkered down for the night in a cave so enormous the light from our torches faded into the murky black without revealing any upper bound to Al. For most of the night, all we could hear was the rushing of water somewhere behind the wall of the cave. Yet after some time, it is hard to say how much, for we had lost all sense of where day ended and night began. We heard a sort of scraping noise, and then the sound of boulder shifting. The scraping turned to a roar, but by that time we were already on our feet and running towards the tunnel through which we had entered the cave. We did so none too soon, for the shifting had opened up a new passage, the cavern, which began to spew out hordes of small, misshapen humanoids. Without breaking stride, I looked over my shoulder, and in the midst of the mass of midgets I spied the outline of a large, black troll. Thus began our run for our lives. Pearls of the North, Oxenford, Oxenford, jumped snuggling into the bosom of the Ponter to the cast of Novigrad, a cradle erected upon Redanian soil, nurturing the greatest minds not only of that kingdom, but of all the North. To walk its hallowed academy's halls is to embark on a journey through Leaming, from the finest points of philosophy to the grandest strokes of art, with stops made to admire architecture and dissect medicine along the way. Peer to either side, and you will spy fellow travelers in your pilgrimage of learning. The students, they throng Oxenford's streets, lending it an indelible imprint of youth that can be felt the moment you pass through eye gates. Dormitories stand cheek by jowl, booksellers hawk used tomes on every comer, and under every tree fresh faces debate poetry with passion. Yet youth is not all state and compass, and the young here shirk none of other typical pastimes. Raucous and merry are the city streets, both by day and, even more so, by night. Though the city councillors have forbidden the sale of alcohol after dusk, no one seems eager to enforce this with stricture, and wisely so, for any loss of sleep is more than made up for by the gains, profits to fatten its innkeepers' pockets, and the late night crooning of troubadours to enrich its soul. As for its architecture, of particular note are the recently renovated elven aqueducts used to clean the city sewers. They stand as witness to the city's innovative spirit. You will not find their like in all the civilized world, yet dominating the town's architectural visage like a glistening crown is the complex of buildings that comprises the Oxenford Academy. Few today remember that these edifices, constructed by the elves, predate the city itself. It is the institution that named the city, and not vice versa. Today Oxenford Academy enjoys a reputation matched only by the Imperial Academy in Nilfgaard, of greatest renown. The departments of alchemy, natural history, minstrelsy and poetry, medicine and herbology, engineering and, last but certainly not least, philosophy.
Ah, you're back. Let's see these books of yours.
A portrayal of the Brother Adalbert's best.
Oh, $200 left. Then I think I regret it.
Farewell.
robes.
and life. And should we thus submit our life to religion, or should we interpret religion so that it serves our lives instead? There are as many schools as there are philosophers, as many stories as there are human beings, and let us not forget elven beings, nor dwarven, halfling, gnomish wands, nor any other such sapient creature familiar with the quandaries of the South. For my part, having survived now more than 120 years, vodka and radishes work wonders. Lend no credence to anyone who claims differently, can swear with all certainty that there is no way to reconcile everyone at once, and what pleases one will provoke whinging and sulking in another, and will undoubtedly cause a third to reach for his knife if it dares depart from his known, narrow world by so much as a hair. What then are we to do? How should we live? Why, as we like, as our soul urges, disregarding all the brayings of philosophers and ethicists. Those contained in this tome included, disregard them as we would fairy tales on old wives' legends. The natural obscurity of curses. To my dear friends, Philip and Anna, from Count Laguver, Minister of Culture for the Kingdom of Temeria, Vizima, 1265. Whoever thinks curses are only ever manifestations of one being's ill will towards another is sorely mistaken. Shockingly commonplace are reports of curses cast unwittingly on oneself or on objects in one's immediate environment. The consequences of doing so can be difficult to predict. In many cases they lead to harm or even the death of the person afflicted by the curse, or of the people spending time with the object or being on which the curse fell. That is why it is so essential to take preventative measures to safeguard oneself as thoroughly as possible against the casting of curses. As an absolute minimum, Madame Amelia Veracruz, Leon recommends cleansing oneself of all negative thoughts, striving to be at one with the world and achieving harmony between body and mind. Mysterious notes. I am who I am. I can't change that. Shirts woven of parsley and passions made of virgin's tears might work in old wives' tales, but not for me. It's time to come to terms with it. With Hannah's love and iron discipline I have found a way to manage, but I must remember to hide in the woods before the full moon rises, to go somewhere far from others, far from Hannah. The attack comes and then passes. I wake up with wounds on my hands and the taste of blood in my mouth. Perhaps it is for the best that I don't remember. Killing prey with bow and arrow is one thing. To tear it apart with fang and claw, at least here, deep in the woods, I won't hurt any people. Merciful Melittle, watch over any who stray too close. Letter of Close. Letter of safe conduct in the name of His Majesty Radovid V, King of Redania. The bearer of the present document is entitled to the right of unfettered passage across all blockades on the Pontar River. A Miraculous Guide to Gwent, the tome you hold in your hands, commissioned by the Most Greater, Duke de Berry, shall make use of magic most arcane to display which Gwent cards are currently missing from your collection and repeat in your mind how about a round of Gwent, and, shall Piers, Volan 25 Novigrad, 27 the Skellige Isles, 27 Royal Palace in Vizime 1 Kaer Morhen, 1 Ed but open following, number of new cards which can still be won from players of Neparchiad renown or skill, 37. Smuggler's notes. Those were the days. You'd smuggle a few bottles of hooch into Oxenford, then laughter about the dormitory selling it to students. You'd come away with a hefty sack of coin, and they'd have their spirits fortified for study. Then along came Radovid, who shut down the university, chased the students away and positioned ballistae on the riverbank to sink everything floating up or down the Pontar, swans included. But there's not been a dark cloud yet that didn't have a silver lining. Yesterday I saw our brave soldiers sink a merchant vessel. went straight to the bottom. It did, along with its whole crew, and its cargo. A shame about the man, really, but it would just as big a shame to let all those goods go to waste. So me and Martin will fish them out, dry them off and sell them, and maybe at last I'll have something to put in my pot. Marauders notes. Last week the three of us grabbed his traveler. Looked like the kind of cowardly fuck starts shitting his breeches at the first sight of you, but seems looks can be deceiving. Bastard started waving a sword, had my car off and sliced Olaf's arse so deep he's got an extra crack, except the new one's horizontal. Then he smacked Ivar in the forehead with the hilt. Hersod's still dizzy. We snuffed him in the end. Of course, every fellow's doomed when he's outnumbered, but it turned out he had a handful of coins in his pouch, a copper ring on his finger, and that's it. We lost out no more to the herbalist for patching up than we took from the horse and saw afterwards, Olaf said. Why the devil risk our necks walling around travelers, when gold's literally sitting right under our feet, buried with the dead? A corpse can't defend itself, so the risk of injuries no need to wait around all day till someone walks by. There's already a couple does someone's waiting for us, lying in their graves, each one marked out lick, veg at a grocer's. So I gave it a good think and concluded Olaf's talking sense. So starting tomorrow we're going to stay off the roads and do our looting in the graveyard instead. So I gave it a good think and concluded Olaf's talking sense. So starting tomorrow we're going to stay off the roads and do our looting in the graveyard instead. Villard, you old bastard. Letter. I loan where you can drop up the coin to pay off your many debts. Volan now. Blatherhead say those bogs ain't worth a muffled fart from a Sagiat. Sow. But don't ye believe them, mate. They dinny can shite from Sugary. A man can make a killing there, and a dwarf can do twice as good, I'm sure. So here's the crock. While crossing Velen a week or so past, I spotted a foul well, dressed stiffs laying about the forest. Travel bags untouched. Refugees. See. Fleeing the war, and whoever flies up to them first gets all their worldly belongings. You ken what I'm saying, mate? Grab a chest, head off, cross the ponter post haste and strip those stiffs of rings, necklaces and everything else afore some nimbler prick does. Oh, but keep a sharp axe round your belt all the while, for Velen's pure heathen with monsters. But hey, it's all in the name of a good cause, filling your pockets. Your ever loving Grudgeon. Admissions to New admissions to Miss Maribella's shelter. Recent admissions. Ainara Mikula Travik, Yana Jenny, all most likely of Pimerian origin. They were left on the shelter's doorstep during the night and were asleep when found. We have not been able to determine how they came to be in Novigrad. Letter from a female admirer. The thrust of your hypnotic gaze left my visage red and hot. The whole world suddenly set to spinning in a whirlwind of oblivion, and I plunged into purest ecstasy, imbibing its nectar, the music, the singing, you. For that one brief moment I felt as if I were the lute you so skillfully strummed, and wanted nothing more than for you to put your dexterous digits on my soul's yearning chord. Letter from Fran. When will you return to Cidaris? I hope it will be soon. 4. I miss you terribly. Waiting to see you again literally pains me. If you are to come, send me a message beforehand. I'll ask my mistress for a day off. My dearest Dandelion. Letter to Dandelion. Since you told me of your plan to rob the city's kings of crime, I can think of nothing else. Several times I have wished to talk to you, to drive this mad notion from your head, but you are never at the Rosemary in time when I visit. I hope the lesser evil is true and you are busy preparing for the heist, and not avoiding me. I want to believe, that this entire matter is about something more than mere gold and mid-life hunger for adventure. But either way I would much prefer you abandoned it. Surely you can find another way to solve your old friend's problem. We both know quite a few folk in Novigrad, many of whom owe us favors. Perhaps it's time to call them in? Think it over, before you get in too deep. Beasts of the Tukaj foothills. The peasants of the Tukaj foothills say fiends are born of magic, for at times witches cast spells on bears causing them to mount boars, and the resultant offspring is neither boar nor bear, but has the makings of a fiend. Usually such boar piglets die of hunger, but they are at times found and taken in by witches. Raised on enchanted milk, they grow in strength, and soon enough the milk is no longer enough for them. Now fiends, they start hunting and kill their victims with the ferocity of a boar and the strength of a bear. Yet they remain ever true to their mothers, meaning the witches protect them from danger, answer their every summons and aid them in all things. Narrance. Naranson, son of Gnestad. When he awoke, he saw before him an endless swath of blue. On the horizon the sky merged with the glassy sea. The storm had passed, so had the longship and all its crew. He never learned how long he had lain unconscious in the lifeboat. The sun had scorched his skin a purplish red and turned his lips to grit parchment. He was overcome by a great thirst, but there was nothing on the boat with which to quench it. Had he been spared from so much only to die now? No. Naranson was the son of the great Gnestad and he would never give up. He had had 20 springs under his belt when he embarked on this voyage. When was that? Long ago. Very long ago. Back when his friends still lived. When he still had his left hand. Not this stiff stone, when his beard was still red and not streaked with silver. The dye for glary which Halulaf had demanded a high price. Naranson had never given that a sow. In a b-boat in the middle of an A once again set eyes on the raised, to see the eyes of his mother, who ha him to sleep ales of the deeds of the legendary heroes. Now he had become reality. He should have been happy, but he wasn't. Pallid. Yet no man can know his future. One thing is SME Naranson had known what horrors this life had in Stareth would have chosen another. He was the son of the great GR had walked the path of glory, from which one company the cust the little peasant WHO confounded his lord. Winter was on its way and the Lord once again started to think about what to do to oppress his people even more. One morning, at the crack of the cockerel's crow, he rode out into the village in a carriage pulled by 2 black horses, with his trusted page at his side to act as his scribe. The earth was sodden and a cruel mud covered the road. So the Lord, not wanting to dirty his shiny new boots, stayed in his carriage and sent his page to do his bidding. When they arrived at the village, the page dismounted from the carriage, a paper covered in thick ink clutched in his hands. He nailed the paper to the first hut he saw, and since he did it with a hammer, a peasant boy named Reuben soon opened the door up to see what was the matter. The boy was 12 years of age and had a straw-colored shock of cow, licked hair and a freckled face with ruddy cheeks. "Well, what do you want?" grumbled the page, looking at Reuben's shirt which was covered in the same filth as everything else in the village. "Well, nothing rightly." Reuben shrugged. "Thing is, sir, this here's me home." "Then get inside it." The boy wasn't scared, and instead stood on his doorstep looking at the piece of paper. "What's this, sir?" "A letter," the boy asked. "Read it and find out for yourself," the scribe said, growing angrier, though Reuben didn't seem to notice. "Afeard I can't, sir. Don't know how." "What the devil's taking you, scribe?" the Lord hollered. He was still sitting in his carriage and hadn't heard the conversation. Clearly, he was growing bored. "The whelp says he doesn't know how to ready." "Aye, 'cause he don't." Reuben confirmed and took 2 steps toward the carriage, his bare feet sinking into the muddy gray muck and the ones inside. "Do they?" questioned the Lord. "Where do you reckon they'd learn a thing like that?" Lord, the peasant asked, perplexed, for he had always thought great lords like that must surely know everything. "So who in your village does know how to read?" Asked the Lord, growing ever more irritated. Not no one. Lord. Scribe, the Lord said, leaning far out, while leaning on his carriage door. Could you explain to me how I am to enforce my declaration on people who do not know how to read and write? I don't know, my lord. The scribe sobbed, taking a step back as if he expected the Lord to jump out of the carriage and assault him. The fault was not his, but the Lord was in the habit of beating his scribe when he grew angry, no matter the cause. The ways and manners of Skellige folk. One's attention immediately is drawn to the fact that impoverished huts shine with cleanliness, the walls of their homes usually made from pine and covered, which keeps out all manner of vermin. I believe it scares off I well, for I did not see a single substance derived from sap indoors during my entire stay in Skellige is a bedroom. The interiors of their huts are quite spacious and usually divided into bare rooms. The first is used by the members of the household during the day and is separated by a doorway from the second. And contains only simple wooden beds covered with sacks more than continental bedding. In the middle of each main chamber stands a large round table around which the members of the household gather to eat only once a day. This usually happens just after dusk, the time for their main meal. This supper is a hallowed event and is carried out in a nearly ritualistic manner. At its start, before the family members have even taken their seats around the table, the eldest of the family tears off a piece of bread and places it on something of a household altar, which occupies a place of honor in each Skellige home. This serves as a symbol of respect for deceased ancestors. At the end of this ceremony for the departed, the entire family sits down to cat. The eldest woman places a steaming bowl in the middle of the table. Everyone has their own spoon, which they dip, one by one, into the basin of food. They most often eat porridge, over which they pour a gravy made from meat or fish. Curiously, immediately upon the supper's conclusion, the oldest takes the piece of bread set aside at the start of the meal and places it in a large amphora. As I later learned, when an amphora becomes full, it is filled with boiling water and a beverage is brewed which in taste somewhat resembles beer, though it is much weaker. Necronomicon. To think that man appeared on an empty world and gained mastery over unchallenged is as foolish as thinking the world will cease to exist after man's passing. Before the first human set foot on our world, it was inhabited by beings superior to men in terms of wisdom, strength and every other virtue. The beings I have in mind still exist in our present time, though they do not exist in a sphere available to human understanding. They occupy no dimension known to us. Where they live can best be described as a space between worlds. At times one can sense their presence through a sudden, unknown scent or a strange feeling of anxiety with no apparent cause. A wind which blows in several directions at once is another example of their subtle manifestation in our realm. There exist various imaginings of what these creatures might look like, yet these have nothing to do with reality, for man is incapable of conceiving something which he has not seen. Even in his wildest nightmares, the greatest horror these beings bring comes precisely from their indefiniteness and lack of concrete form. Yet it would be a mistake to think that a formless creature is necessarily harmless. The power they possess is sufficient to lay waste to a forest, level a city or whip an entire sea into froth and waves. Today man is master of the world, but only for a short while. They await patiently and will soon rise and regain their one-time glory. This is as certain as dawn follows dusk, and dusk then follows, again, soon after, to drown everything once more in darkness.
Ah, you're back. Let's see these books of yours. adventures of Muriel the Lovely Harlot, adorned with humorous engravings. The treatment of furuncles through cauterization, a study. My manifesto. Must be it. There's a letter inside.
Begone, or I'll inform the hunters you're a non-human.
Moribundia, the vampire's last likeness. Tyromancy, or the noble art of cheese divination.
Elf? Half-elf? You're clearly no human.
No bread, no coin, pardon.
Isn't any of this episode? Okay. This is the end of this episode. Everyone have a good day, night. I'll do a different episode.